what kind of role do you want to be in? And people, we say when we're younger and eager, we say, oh, anything, anything. I can do anything you want, right? Yep, I can. Whatever choice you think is right, I can do that. I can do whatever you can do, right? So there's that. And that feels very natural to be able to say, oh, I'm amenable. I'm flexible. Let me tell you something. Now that I've been behind the camera, have a point of view. Always have a point of view. It doesn't have to be the right one. It just has to be yours.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Welcome. Today's chat is a real soul-nurturing treat. I absolutely love Monica. She's the real deal. She's kind, empathetic, funny, and insightful. She has a beautiful growth mindset. I can't speak highly enough of this lady. So I'll let the conversation do the talking. So let's get into it and officially introduce Monica to the podcast. Monica Raymund is an actor, director, and producer. She's the series lead on the STARZ crime drama series, HIGHTOWN. Monica recently completed production on Showtime and Paramount Global's The CAINE Mutiny Court Martial. Many know Monica from a starring role as Gabriela Dawson, spanning 6 seasons on NBC's hit series Chicago Fire. She's also received an Imagen Award for Best Actress in Television and was subsequently nominated an additional 3 times. Her additional television credits include Michelle and Robert King's The Good Wife and a series regular role on Fox's Lie to Me for 3 seasons. Monica was also seen in Universal's romantic comedy Bros. She's also starred in ARBITRAGE, Happy Baby, and also in BRAHMIN Bulls. Behind the camera, Monica was also part of the inaugural class of NBC's Female Forward initiative aimed at increasing female representation in the director's chair. Her television directing credits include Power Book 2 Ghost, National Treasure for Disney+, NBC's The Endgame, the series finale of USA's The Sinner, Law & Order Organized Crime, as well as an episode of CBC's FBI, NBC's Law & Order SVU, and Law & Order Organized Crime, as well as HIGHTOWN. Monica also directed the short film Tanya for the Hidden Tears Project, a non-profit media company developing content to bring awareness to sex trafficking. As a graduate of the Juilliard School, Monica received the John Houseman Award for her commitment and dedication. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about flow, growth and regrowth, leaving Chicago Fire, the power of no, expectations, rejection, your point of view, performing and directing, control, and moving forward. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I find it adds a new element and dynamic to these chats. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny and Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode.
I've been wondering where we start for a few days, so this is a real high-risk, high-reward situation. And I don't know if it's true. This is the one thing I don't know if it's true. Did you used to perform in bands like jazz? Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, you read that correctly.
Oh, thank God. I was so worried. It was the one thing I was worried about.
No, yeah, I do that. I sing jazz, and I kind of grew up in musical theater, And I took a lot of training for voice and for dance, and I've been singing since I was very young.
Yeah.
I kind of segued into jazz at a pretty early age. And when I was in Chicago, I was filming a job there, and I just had this itch to sing and to be on stage and try to get my instrument back into some standard jazz work. So I started a jazz band and we played some gigs in Chicago and in New York. It was fun.
That's so cool. So were you missing the singing aspect to yourself, the performing side? I know because you're obviously doing the acting side. What was it that actually got you to perform to people? It's one thing where we can perform, you know, in the shower or at home, but to actually get a band and perform is really awesome.
Yeah, I'm a theater baby. I grew up in the theater, going to the theater, performing in the theater. So being in front of a live audience and having that communication with the audience is quite almost literally for me church. It's a very sacred experience.
Oh, nice.
And as TV and film, as wonderful and creative as it has become over the years, it's still on a screen. And so there's something about live performance that for me is just quite possibly the greatest feeling I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
And I sing. So I wanted to sing. I had use my voice for a while. And I needed to feel like, I don't know what the word is. I needed to feel cozy in my art at the time. I was struggling trying to connect to my like soul a little bit. And so whenever I'm in that space, I really try to redirect my focus to go back to the basics, to like immerse myself in the works of others that gives me joy and inspiration. So that's what I did.
That's very humble. That's very cool. I was literally just thinking, what did it do for your soul? And then you said it. So what did it do? Because you said you're going through something, I assume just trying to reconnect with yourself. You mentioned going back to the basics. We can get into that side in a bit, but what did the actual performance do? Did it lift you up? Did it give you clarity or whatever was going on?
I don't know if it gives me clarity. What it does gives me is like, it allows me to commune with art in a way that I can't do just doing one job. I have learned as an adult that I become very bored very quickly. I don't know why. I'm much, in order to address it, I have decided to just do many things all at once. As long as I'm doing it healthfully, then everybody wins, right? But
yeah.
But like for me, I think, singing, being on stage, whether it's acting or singing, is very much about expression, not clarity for me. It's really sort of a communication. I don't know. Is this sounding just bizarre?
No. I know that you're, I've heard like all your interviews, and I know that you're quite a spiritual person. And so we're speaking the same language.
All right. Well, then you get it. You get it, man.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out for you if it's like that flow state, or is it connecting to like your higher Monica? Like, is it just this stream of consciousness that allows you to feel? To me, it's kind of like when I don't do singing, but maybe it's improv or even this or basketball at a lower level. It's just this like flow of this. It just feels like light and this energy where you just feel like you're unstoppable in a way. You're just so with the flow of life.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's dead on. It's the flow. It's the Black Mamba thing, right? It's like, it's like when you get in that cycle of flow, you become untouchable. Something's transcendent. It's quite ineffable.
Yes. So are you able to do that? Because you do so many different things. Is that something that you strive for? Does it happen? Can you get into it easily? Do you have a relationship with it?
This is very, very good question. I'm so glad I'm talking to you because it's like prepping me for my therapy appointment. This is good.
I'll send you
It's getting me in the space that I need. I do a lot of the things all of the time because it has become apparent to me that the older I get, the more those components, and when I say those components, I mean multi-hyphenates, like producing, like directing, like, doing a lot of things, that those things have introduced themselves into like my experience of flow, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's almost like outgrowing a certain, part of Monica and like growing into the new one. And then, I've shed that exoskeleton and now I'm growing my new one and sort of I'm figuring out, I think, as I get older, it's just sort of these phases of like growth and shedding and growth and shedding. And so the multi hyphenate thing and like adding to the dish is very much like an intentional feeding of the flow experience.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I've got so many questions.
Yeah.
So within that, would you go back to performing live via singing and doing a band or that band or a different band? Is that something, or that was one phase and now we're building up on what makes you feel right? Yeah.
Singing is for me a hobby. It's not a profession because people who really devote themselves to singing, that is a career.
Yeah.
It is absolutely a career because that requires an extreme amount of training, practice, work. They're just, that is what a musician is doing, is they're consistently focused on that. And I'm a musician because it makes me happy, and fulfills me in like a hobby. I don't make money doing it, so I don't have that kind of risk with it.
Yeah.
But that being said, like acting on a stage that's my sweet spot. For me, that's where I'm in the pocket. So that is very much an important aspect for me. I forgot what your question was.
No, you're doing great. In terms of, so I understand there's like that difference between a passion and like a hobby and like a career, but just even getting up to perform like with the band, that's still really exciting, whether it's getting paid or not. That's still really exciting. Is that something that you'd continue in the future, or you feel like you've kind of done that and you've shared and there's the growth?
No, yes, I absolutely want to continue live performance. I would love to be doing plays for the rest of my life as often as possible. It has not happened very recently in the last 10, 15 years of my life. I've only done a few here and there, but it's a necessary goal for me to continue to pursue that.
Oh, cool. Is that because you're saying it's your bread and butter? You first started, I know you went to Juilliard and, theatre was your bread and butter. You've described yourself in other interviews as a theatre nerd. Is that the ultimate goal? What's the ultimate goal for you at this stage?
The ultimate goal changes every 6 months or so. I'm still working on that answer. What the ultimate goal? I'm a little clearer on what that ultimate goal is, which look, obviously, it's like being able to do the work that I want, right? With the people that I want. That's sort of the ultimate fuzzy, vague goal.
No,
a little more concretely is I'd love to have my goal is to diversify my career as much as possible. I like to do a lot of different things. I like to taste a lot of different foods, right? And I like to do them well. So my goal is to be able to have experiences doing plays, have experiences doing TV and feature and directing and plays and directing. And, this is all part of who I am as an artist. So that is the goal. I mean, I've got some very specific answers to that question, which my managers know about, but for the sake of this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I want to say you're a rare breed of human, because most people, and there's no judgment, I do this, when we're good at one thing, we want to stay in our lane because we're too scared to do something else. And I was speaking to another lady. She's the star of a TV show, doesn't really matter. And she's been an actress for 20-something years, thriving in it. She's a wonderful human. And then she wanted to dip her toes in directing, and now she's doing directing. But there's a lot of fear that can come from that because, you've been thriving in one area for so long. Now you're trying something which is pretty different. Not completely different, but it's pretty different. And there can be a lot of ego, there can be self-esteem issues, all the normal human experiences. And often we can see people not necessarily want to tackle it because they're worried for various reasons, which I understand. But you're very different. You want to do everything and you want to do it well. And I'd love to know where that kind of like drive is. It just about this, you know, growth? Is it about fulfillment within yourself? Where does that come from?
Oh, um, where does that come from? I think it, I think it comes from this like insatiable desire to tell stories. I'm in the business of storytelling. Um, there are infinite numbers of stories to tell.
Yep.
And so I am not satiated with just a couple.
Yeah.
I must tell more. I mean, stories are truly kind of like my drug, you know.
Yeah.
In the practice of telling stories, being involved in that art form and in the business, um, you know, I want to be very. When we talk about sidebar, when we talk about stuff like this, it has become clear to me that it's important for me to demystify some of what's happening in the business. And like, yes, there's soul searching and there's soul fulfilling, but also like there are very concrete things in the business that fulfill me in a very practical way. And I'm noticing more and more that I really like to talk about that when I can, because I don't know, there's clarity in demystifying, and that it doesn't feel so, you know, far reaching.
Yeah.
It's not as like esoteric as
As in my,
you know,
yeah.
people like to hold on to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but going back into what I was saying, yeah, storytelling is the currency, right? It's the financial currency for many of us, and it's kind of the soul currency, really. I find you know, the like going back to the bard, it's very, not only is it fulfilling in myself, but it's sharing generational stories, sharing imagination, and collaborating with other artists to do so is the greatest joy of my life. I like working with other people. I don't like working alone. That is a mission of statement of mine. I need to be working with other people. So that's why I'm insatiable. It's because I'm bored alone. I'm so bored of myself. I need to be with other people.
Well, you do a lot of stuff which we'll get into in a little bit alone. So we won't say you're bored alone, but I understand what you're saying. There's this like higher. I understand what you're saying. I do screenwriting, and all I
Mhm.
want to do is collaborate with. Doesn't just necessarily have to be friends, but when I've had my friends and I've been pitching them my shows, like, is this funny? And them acting out the scripts, that's the greatest joy. You're obviously doing it at a much higher level, and you said that one of your many goals to work with people that you love. And to me, that is like what life is about. Is, you know, I know that you also come from like a Jewish upbringing, and I'm not sure our stories will be similar, but stereotypically, which is not necessarily healthy, there is that element of like, to be successful, you need to be like a doctor, accountant, or whatever. And,
Mm,
you know, there are pros and cons, of course, but there was never the talk of like the play and the fun. And to
mhm.
me, that's what life is all about. And you've mastered it at a very young age, even though age doesn't matter. And I'd love to know, has this always been instilled in you? I know that you did, I think when you're 12 years old, you did a children's production of Wizard of Oz. Was that what hooked you? Is that when you're like, I have to play and fun for a living? I need to know, it's the best thing in the world.
Oh my God, you've done your research, man. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Um, what hooked me? Actually, you know, what's really funny is last night I went to go see The Little Mermaid
Oh,
in the
nice.
theaters, the new one.
Yep.
And afterwards I told my friends, I said, I would just like you to know that my very first role when I was a kid for the theater was Sebastian.
Very nice.
So that was my very first endeavor onto the stage, and what an impression it made. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was fun. It's fun. I mean, it doesn't get more complicated than that. It's just fun. And then the experience of the fun started to take on its own form and started to grow into something more meaningful for me, and became a more integral path to my identity, really. Um, yeah, does that answer? So, well, I also, right. The second part of that, like, you know, my mother's very creative. My father is a businessman, and our
Nice.
values are moderate. and slightly, I guess, traditional, really. And I really haven't followed the traditional path, I suppose. And sometimes that's very scary when I think about it. Um, I don't know why. I don't know why it's scary. I guess because like I want my parents' approval, which they approve me. Everybody, they absolutely
Yeah, they're great.
approve and validate. Yeah, they're wonderful. I have incredible parents, but absolutely, like, straying from sort of that conventional path, as either from the Dominican side, which is a very traditional, Caribbean outlook on life, is just as traditional as many other cultures, and then the Jewish side, which is so deeply entrenched in the tradition of um, spirituality and communal spirituality too.
Oh,
And
interesting.
these are these are values that I have become very important to me as an adult, that I have decided to translate in the community of artists. So that, like, in the very beginning of this interview, I'd mentioned that being on stage is very much a form of church for me. It is a very religious experience for me. It's a sacred space, and I don't fuck with it. It's a place of honor and certain kind of purity that I have to respect, and that just is what it is. And I think that relationship to it, I wonder if that comes. I'm figuring this out in real time here. I wonder if that comes from sort of these traditional values that my parents have, that they've instilled in us. So I don't know. It's a very interesting question you asked. I'm not sure what the answer is. Hopefully, I somehow answered it.
No, you did it. It's one of those things that could be a lifelong journey of discovery as well. But you have such a nice
Yeah.
mix that's very interesting, and having those two different cultures and how it's informed you is also really interesting to hear. In terms of was play and fun mentioned? I was just the reason I bring it up. First of all, I'm obsessed with play and fun, but I was just speaking yesterday to my gardener, and he's left his job as an engineer, and I left my job as an accountant to pursue, doing podcasts and screenwriting, and how there was no talk in those environments of play and fun, and also from different community backgrounds where it's not really talked about. Like success means something very different, whereas you're doing it right in
Mm.
my mind. You've got the play and the fun, you're doing something that you love, you get to collaborate with people that you love, and there's 20 other things that you're doing. I'm just wondering, was that a focus? Was that instilled in you, or was it something that you got through maybe just doing all of the things that you did, like i.e. these plays and then Juilliard and where you are now?
Um, I think that I would say it's a bit of both. I truly would. I would say it's a bit of both. I mean, you know, being deeply entrenched in a theatrical community is fun. It's like a fun thing to do, and you're going to college or acting school, and you're rolling around on the ground, and you're learning how to, like, do speech and voice and work with your breath, and you're like, I can't believe that I'm paying, a school for this. I hope this works.
Yeah.
But like, it's fun. It is living in a child's imagination, trying to stay open and explore, and practicing the art of that and the craft of that is just a blast. It's just a goddamn blast. And I suppose with joy and fun and play in my house, there was my parents were very supportive of me as a young kid. They had rules, and the rules were, you had to, like, pick an instrument, you had to pick a sport, and you had to make good grades, right? Those were the rules. So if I picked an instrument, piano. I grew up playing piano, was my thing. Picked a sport. I was like doing, soccer and tennis or whatever. And then eventually I fell in love with musical theater. And I was like, I want to dance. And they were like, sure, great. That's a sport. They classified it as a sport.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so they, as long as I was, like, doing well, they really supported it, and thus they supported my sense of play and fun and joy. And even when I was a kid, I remember, like, my mom, I remember, this is such a sweet story. When I was a very young girl, I don't know if you guys have this in your family, we did a tooth fairy.
Yeah.
You know what the tooth fairy is? Yeah. So when you lose a tooth, the fairy comes and leaves you some money or something.
I go into my
And I
parents.
remember,
I figured it out
yeah,
early, so I just,
you just started taking money out of
yeah,
your
I'm like,
mom.
oh, I got shortchanged by the tooth fairy. I'll take this 50. Then Tooth Fairy would rob me back, but that's a story for another time.
You're
Sorry,
like,
go on.
excuse me, do you have change? Do you have change for 50? Thanks. I'll take it in 2 10s, please.
Yeah, thanks.
I remember that when I was like 7, 6 or so, I lost my tooth. I put it under my pillow, and I wake up in the morning, and there's this whole like pixie dust, and the
Oh, that's,
window is cracked open, and there's a little line, a trail of pixie dust that goes down the windowsill
oh, wow.
onto the dresser, and it goes down onto the floor, and it went all the way underneath my bed, and I followed it underneath my bed, and under my bed there was a sparkling like ball of tinfoil, and I had to unwrap it, and there was my dollar. And I remember it so well. And I talked to my mom about it after when I was older. And she said it just brought you so much joy. And it was so fun to like keep that joy of imagination and play alive that I wanted to do that for you. So I feel like,
Oh, that's
I,
beautiful.
I feel like, yeah, like they did do that in their own way. And then I was off to the races because I was like, I'm going to Juilliard. Good
Oh,
luck. Hope it works out. Thanks for paying my tuition. Oh my
that-
God.
that's so great. I also heard, first of all, that's one of the most beautiful stories. Thank you for sharing that. I also heard that your mum, I don't know if you're getting, please correct me if I'm wrong, you're getting cold feet for your Juilliard audition and you were going to
Mm.
potentially not do it, and your mum actually encouraged you to do it. And I guess the rest is history. I'd love you to tell me what was going on if you remember it at that time.
Yeah, baby Monica was absolutely sure that she was not going to be successful whatsoever.
Amazing.
Just was a waste of time. I couldn't justify it. We should just do something else with our day. I wasn't going to get in. What was the point? I had I thought that like it was my destiny to be rejected. I don't know. I was very scared. I was very nervous and afraid of failure. See
Oh,
how I brought that?
yeah, I love it. Doing my job.
I was doing the job. I was very scared of failing and not being good enough and being judged and having my dreams, trashed. But my mom was like, you know what? Let's just do it, and then we'll go and we'll go have lunch and we'll walk around New York City. You love New York City. Let's just do it. Just do it. Get it over with, and then we'll go shopping. And I was like, oh, fine, fine. She goes, it's okay. You're not gonna get in, right? So just do it. Just do it, and then we'll go. I said, okay, fine. So I went in. I did. I was in a room with like all these other really talented kids, and I go there. It's like a 2-hour thing, and
Oh, wow.
I go in, and I said, okay, all right, because you have to wait. You have to wait for a while. You have to get in. You got to find it. It's like a thing. So I go in. I do my audition, and I'm like, okay, great, done. And they're like, okay, we're gonna post callbacks. Okay, so I have to wait around again. And then I go up to the wall and call back, and my name's in the callback list. I think it was that, or they called your name. I forget. This is a long time ago. And I got a call back, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's strange. I guess we'll have to come back here and do the callback. And I don't know what happened, man. I think I was so sure that I wasn't gonna get in that I guess maybe I kind of got out of my own way a little bit and found a relaxation or something in the I don't know. I don't know. It worked out.
Worked out very well. But this is what, so I'm super impressed by this story. One, good on your mum. But to get out of your own way, obviously you're very nervous. I can understand it's still very challenging the first time. But then the
Mm.
callback, you're like, oh shit, this is real. And the nerves and stuff would come. Or did you still have the same mentality of, I'm not going to get it. What's the point? I mean,
Oh
not,
no, no.
yeah.
You know what's funny about it? So we're having this interview today, and about 6 hours ago, I had a callback for a big project, a project that I really, really, really want. And I was so nervous today, 6 hours ago.
Oh, crazy.
I was so nervous that I started doing the Navy SEALs like breathing exercise
Oh,
because
cool.
I was like, I was like, oh my God, my heart rate is way too high. I need to bring this down. I need to calm down. I was just like riddled with anxiety still. And this is like, I'm in my house. There's no one around. We're doing this like stupid Zoom callback because that's how the world is nowadays. And I was still like just sweaty. I was nervous when I was 17 years old applying to Juilliard, and I'm nervous now at 36, called back with some fancy director on some. The nerves don't go away. They don't. You just figure out how to manage them better. That's all.
Ooh, see, this will resonate with so many people because it's nice to know in a sense that you still got it, but you're able to manage and deal with it a lot better. So breathing, which I'm also a firm, I've been doing pranayama breathing for a while. If I get very nervous, I do stuff like that. Do you have a few tools that when you're nervous, for example, like when you're acting, that you do? Do you have anything?
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said the holy grail, which is the breath. The breath is the spine of everything that we do. So bringing our breathing down, that's the first thing I do. And if I need to take a minute before I start that audition, I will take a second. The
Oh,
room
nice.
is yours. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I say it, and I'll be like, okay, great. Just give me 1 second, please. And I take my minute, whatever. And then I say, all right, let's do it. And then we go. So like the always taking that breath. And then the second thing is that I have found, and I did it today when I was in that callback, I was so nervous and I started like kind of deviating, and thank God he like had a couple notes and wanted to go again. So I got a second crack at it. And I was much more relaxed the second time. But even like when I was just beginning the audition, I was like, good, get back in it. I was like, oh, totally having this very out of body, like I'm not connected to what I'm doing moment. And I had to just go right back to the objective. What am I doing? What am I doing? What do I want in this scene? That's what I want. That's what I want. And stick to, and I just got to get into the work. Just like I did the work, let's rely on the work. The work is the scaffolding that will keep you up. So whenever I'm feeling like I'm going to lose it, or I'm going to have a panic attack, or I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, or any of that BS, I just have to go right back to the work. Even in that moment. And I highly recommend too, like, I don't love having to start again, but if I have to do it, I just will. And I don't make a big deal about it. I just say, I'm going to take that back again. We'll start again.
I love that.
And just do it. Yeah. I mean, what are they going to do? Sign off? I mean, sure, I guess so. But you just do it again. And like the thing that I don't know. How do you feel about this? Like I love when it's my work. I know the best of the scene that I'm doing because I've been working on it for the last 3 days every hour. So this is mine. I have agency over this.
Yep.
So in that 10 minutes that I have in the room, whatever I need to do to be calm and relaxed within it, that's what I'm going to do. And I do it respectfully, but I don't do it apologetically. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. This is okay. I have never done an acting in that type of regard, but it takes a lot, and it shouldn't, in a sense, and I'll expand what I'm saying. It shouldn't take the courage to sorry, we shouldn't in society need to like apologize for like, I'm just going to take a minute, I'm going to do a pause, but we think we have to. And I'm making this up, 99% of actors wouldn't have the confidence to do that. And they should, because you're right, it's your space. It's the time allocated. You're not being rude. You're being very respectful. You're prepared. You're honoring your craft. And I think it's unbelievable for you to be able to just say, just give me a minute, because you're allowing yourself to do the best that you can. And in turn, they want you to do well. So I actually think that's extremely empowering. And you don't need to apologize for it because you're being respectful. You're honoring the craft. And I'd love to see people do that. Well, not just in acting, but in life. We don't, I told you the one rule in the podcast is you don't need to apologize for interjecting or whatever. And it's true. We apologize for everything. Or accident, when someone bumps into us, we say sorry. And so I understand, we all have got a bit of people pleasing in us, and we want to obviously get along with everyone else, but we don't need to apologize for like 90% of the things that we do. And I think it's very respectful to yourself. So is that something you've had to like figure out in terms of not being able to say sorry? Because it is so common in our society.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everything you're saying resonates with me. We have a lot, I can tell we have a lot of the same values, you and I, and think along the same lines, because it's very strong habit. I'm going to say this because it's true, but I'm not trying to like alienate anyone here, but like, you know, we as women, we're real used to saying sorry. And it's just a nasty habit that a lot of us are figuring out how to knock off. And that comes with practice, just like anything. It's just it's a new muscle, and we're working the muscle out and we're building strength as we go. And it has been something I've intentionally tried to improve upon over the last 10 years or so, like very intentionally. Like, I am not going to apologize for yada yada.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't deserve an apology. You know, I apologize when I have done something wrong and I need to be held accountable for my actions.
Yeah.
But I do not apologize for existing or taking up space. And if I'm a couple minutes late, you know, that's like a case to case thing. Sometimes I will say thank you so much for being patient, but I would rather not show up to a meeting if I'm 30 minutes late. You know, it's like, then you owe an apology. Yeah. So, you know, and becoming like, I think a little bit more of a, you know, just becoming a little bit more prudent about the circumstances that you find yourself in and how you comport yourself in those circumstances I think that's what sort of dictates, you know, when the apology comes into play. But I have really become a big believer in, like you said, respecting the craft and thereby respecting myself, not excusing myself for being there. And also, like, I'm really big on this one, and it's so stereotypical, but I don't care. I love cliches. But no is a complete sentence, right? I don't owe anybody an explanation if I decide not to do something. I don't know it. I don't owe you an explanation. I don't owe you an excuse. If I say no, it's just because of no. If I would like to give you one, then I will, right? But I don't. If I no is a full sentence.
Okay, so I'm still like relatively new to this, but I agree with everything you said. It's amazing. I was very loud. I'm not saying this to blow toot my own horn. I'm doing this merely for me to reflect back on it. I was very fortunate that when I studied kinesiology, which is a conversation in itself, and I think there were only ladies in the class and me, and they were all older than me. I was a young 20-year-old, and they actually taught me the importance of what sorry actually meant and how it impacts potentially ladies way more than men. And then of not apologizing for your space. And I just found that so mind-blowing because as a young dude, you don't care, well, not that you don't care, you don't think about these things at that stage. It's just out of your repertoire. And it really changed my perspective, not just on ladies, but on life and the saying no and sorries. And, you know, so much in society, this is a very micro example. If someone's like, I'm just making this up, do you want to get coffee? And we're like, oh shit, I have to get coffee. And we don't feel we can say no, or even on the acting side, or would you like to do this role? It just doesn't resonate. You don't want to do it. You're not obliged to do it. You can say no, but we feel, or I do at least, we feel so bad saying that word. And it needs to be normalized because no to me is actually a yes in a sense. You know how people say yes to everything and it's empowering. No to me can be equally as empowering if done in the loving way that you're doing it as well.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that what you said, that you learned from other women about, you know, holding agency and not needing to apologize for anything and saying no. Yeah. No is a complete sentence, man. Like it's as simple as that. I don't ever condone unkindness for any reason whatsoever. So I want to be very clear that like when I say these things that are sort of like my little missions, it must be done with kindness.
Not like if someone's saying hi and you're like, no.
No.
Yeah, don't.
No.
No, it's just respecting your
Monica,
boundaries.
do you want to know? That is not what I mean.
Yeah.
Talk to the hand.
No, it's more to me, it's very empowering in that whether it's sorry, yes, no, there's so many other words that spring to mind, but it's just about honoring oneself. You know, you need to love yourself first. And then it's actually a loving act because you're not, you know, we're not sticking the hand to someone's face and saying, no, we're just saying, basically not right for me in a way. And you don't need to,
Yeah.
depending on the situation, like if not that you do this, but if you had an outburst, then like the apologies and stuff come, but you don't need to justify. Like there's so many times where something's happened. I just can't think of an example, but like,
Well, I mean, this isn't something that happened, but this is kind of like in the realm of what we're speaking, and I'll bring it back to the business. Just sort of like practically for people who are listening to this, like again, there's sort of like this idealism with what we're sort of talking about, and this like, I don't know, this life thesis thing that we're discussing, but on a practical ground level, when I am in a room and the director's like, so what did what are you thinking, what direction do you feel like the character would go in, or they ask a question like, what kind of role do you want to be in? And people, we say when we're younger and eager, we say, oh, anything, I can do anything you want, right? Yep, I can. I mean, whatever choice you think is right, I can do that. I can do whatever you can do, right? So there's that, and that feels very natural to be able to say, "Oh, I'm amenable, I'm flexible. I can." Let me tell you something. Now that I've been behind the camera, have a point of view. Always have a point of view. It doesn't have to be the right one. It just has to be yours. Because people who come in and they don't have a choice or they don't have a point of view because they want so much to be, the green light for every single point of view, there's nothing more frustrating. There's truly nothing more frustrating.
isn't that so interesting? Because that also can come into life where, as a previous massive people pleaser, we think we need to like be a chameleon and please other people or say the opinions that someone else is saying. But what you've just said is a metaphor for life as well. Like, you don't need to be right. We all evolve in our opinions and we grow, and what we think today might change in 10 years' time, and that's okay. But like, at least try to be yourself is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, well, like make a choice, have a point of view, and the reason I say this is like my director hat is on right now as I'm speaking, because going back to like me being an artist and wanting to work with other people, like I like working with people who have an opinion. I want your opinion. I can work with that. We can work together. But if you don't have an opinion and you're just like this floating amoeba and it's like this arbitrary thing, directors and producers lose interest very quickly. They've got a lot of shit to do, and they don't have a lot of time to do it. So it's like a time game in Hollywood. That's why you want to have a point of view. Not only does it make you who you are, and you get to be somebody that shines. The people on the other end of the table, they have a lot going on, and they have a very tight budget, and they have a quick timeline. They don't have time to help bring you out of your shell, to find what the character is. You got to come in banging. And if it's the wrong choice, trust me, the director will be like, you know what? Let's try it this way instead. Because if they like you, they'll go ahead and they'll take 3 minutes and they'll give you the note that they need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's very hard to collaborate with people who are working so hard. And I did this for a long time, working so hard to like please and be what I think they want me to be. It's just it's the best way to go against yourself. It's really like, it's tricky because we find it to be so, a lot of us sort of naturally fall into that, but it's actually like, it's a self-imploding thought. It really is.
I have 2 questions on that. I would imagine that the wrong choice is actually better than no choice, because then you can at least got something to work on. It could be a horrible decision, but at least you made something and now we can work from that. Like the canvas has been painted to a degree, but if it's a blank canvas and you've got so much time commitment, so much going, like, I don't have time to help you do that brush and do that. Just give me something and we can go from there.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And my second point was, by doing producing and directing, has that well, obviously it has, but has it helped informed you making decisions as an actor as well?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes. So much, so much, so much. Um, why? How, Monica? Um, the level of preparation now is different than what it used to be for me. I come in more prepared than I used to be. I mean, I was always a hard worker. I like working. Work ethic is like very sexy to me. I always want to work hard. Um, but the level of preparation is different when I'm acting, coming in for an audition. I do my best to be like, my friend said it. My friend who's also a coach, a very successful actor who also like does some coaching on the side. He says it best. He says that when we're auditioning, it should really very much feel like the first take of what it's going to be like when we're on set. So approaching an audition, for me, needs to be that. It's like, okay, now I'm going to set. I'm going to set. Lights are up. DP's there. Camera's up. We're rolling, and action. Like, oh, this is what it's going to be when we're on set, so kind of like leveling up in a way when I'm in the room. And then secondly, I would say when I'm actually on a set, oh yeah, has it changed how I am as an actor? Hardcore.
Oh, nice.
Hardcore. Yeah, like it's fun. I'm very passionate about this conversation because I don't understand why there isn't some kind of crossover workshop class or I guess a workshop class or a panel sat with SAG and VGA, because there's a lot going on that both artists aren't aware of. And if we knew about more things from the other guild, we'd probably make television and film better. Like the process would be a lot more elegant, I think.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
That's my 2 cents. I don't know why it's not being done. I'm curious. I mean, I also am not going to be the person who's going to like do it, but this is hopefully there are other people who, I'm putting it out there, and those productive people, hopefully they can take it. But things like showing up on time is a big deal. Like
people say that, and I'm sorry for interjecting you. You're giving me this look that I love. Is that actually that common that people don't come on time?
Oh my God. Are you kidding? It's incredible.
Oh, really? I would have just thought
that's incredible. Basic. You would think, right? You would fucking think that it is the basic to show up on time. You would think. You don't see doctors being 3 hours late for their surgery, do you? It's like, in any other business, you would get fired if you were coming in late all the time. But there are a lot of there are a lot of personalities in this business, and being late
so well.
Being late is a little more common than I prefer. As an actor, like that's something that's different. Once I come early, I come on time, I come prepared, and I don't leave unless the AD is like, you have like 5 hours off, and then I might leave back to my trailer. But otherwise, I don't leave the set. I'm always there, and I'm constantly aware that I'm at work.
So, okay, I've got so many questions. We're not talking like 5, which is bad. Don't get me wrong, like 5 minutes late. We're talking like 30 minutes late. Do people do that as? Mm-hmm. That still blows my mind, because obviously you've got a very strong understanding of this. Time is money, because you're paying so many people as well. It's not just about the money, but just trying to get everything organized as a schedule. Is it, for people that are, let's just say, in the very late category, is it typically more well-known people? Because let's just say I was starting out on set with you, I would hope that you would fire me if I was 20 minutes, unless if something horrific happened, but which never would happen. I would hope that you would fire me, or I need a bloody good explanation, because it holds up the 100 people on set.
The people who are late, I don't know, man. I mean, like, I really don't know what the answer is. It's unprofessional, full stop. And, there are people. It's so disrespectful. It's so disrespectful. But more than anything, it's disrespectful to the crew.
Yeah.
I have a very, very serious relationship to respecting the crew. And when actors are not on time, a lot of it is because we're not aware that our presence can really affect an entire schedule, and it affects all of the below the line people, which is the crew. If we're like drawing, if we're like, well, I'm not ready to shoot yet, I want to rehearse. Like, they don't know the impact that's happening on the rest of the day for the schedule. And if you don't make, like when I'm directing, if I don't make a day, and what that means is if I don't complete all of the work that's on the schedule for that day, that's a terrible thing. That is a very terrible thing, because the studio has certain rules and guidelines, and if you don't figure out how to abide by those rules, you're going to get fired, and people's pay is at stake. So things like being on time isn't about just like you making you look good. It's actually out of respect for everybody else who's around you. And the people who do it, I don't know. Sometimes it's well-known people. Sometimes it's people who just don't know, and they haven't really been, they haven't been trained well. But
so
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
a good
I hate
lesson
it.
for, even though, yeah, okay, yeah, you said it way better than I could. I was also wondering on this like train of thought. I call this the fluff. In the industry, yeses turn to nos. You might be told that you're going to be doing something, and then it changes, and they might not even tell you. There's all of these strange things, even though it's very normal in the industry. I'm just wondering, how do you deal with what I call the fluff in the industry? The yeses to nos, we're going to be doing this isn't going to happen. You've got the job, you might not have the job, or actually you're in line to get this job and then they never call you back, and just all of these things that wouldn't necessarily work in, let's just say, a friendship, because the communication seems to be a bit off. How do you deal with that?
No, that's very sweet that you just compared it to a friendship. I love it. This is more like an abusive relationship, Michael, not a friendship.
Yeah, that's exactly what I believe.
This is not. I mean, you remove all and any expectations, right?
Yep, that's hard.
That's sort of something that's helped me. And by removing that, I'm sort of keeping my power, not giving it so much power, the fluff so much power.
Yep, nice.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I think like removing my expectations has been a huge, huge help in finding some peace and relief through all of that. Because the fluff can be scary and like abusive in a way, it's sort of, you're getting told one thing and then other things are happening, and the communication is always just funky and broken, not on purpose, just because there's a lot of moving parts. So removing expectations is a good one. I also really believe in controlling what you can control. I'm a big power in that. Like, I love the serenity prayer. It's like totally the way that I try to live my life, which is, accept the things you cannot change, the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I really try to apply that to my work, actually, when it comes to the fluff. When it comes to the fluff, I sometimes I like do like an exercise, and I'll be like, where's the serenity in this? How do I stay serene and not die of worry? Controlling the things I can and letting go of the things that I can't.
That is a mastery right there. If only we could all just apply that even 5% more in our life, the world would be very different, because we do want to control everything, and it doesn't work like that. I was also thinking I heard this example, and it was really empowering for me, like talking about the expectation side. I think you're in the running for this big movie, and you really wanted it, and we all really want big movies, naturally. And I think your friend got it, and it actually changed. I heard this example, and it actually changed your view on expectations, and also like timing and being less attached. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I thought it was a very interesting. I'll let you actually tell it, of what kind of your takeaway, if you remember the lessons and the takeaway from this example.
I can't, you know what, this has happened a few times. So I'm like, I wonder which project he's reading, but it's happened a few times. So it's either any one of them. And this is like a good problem to have, right? It's a good thing. to be able to say, my friend, my pal got that, or that's a person. I've been very lucky because it's been people most of the time that, you know, that I know and I know are great. And then other people's success in that is, it's a very empowering thing to watch, like people I love doing well. And it's very cool, and it inspires me to keep working. But that being said, like, you know, sometimes you're up for a job, and man, that job was so sweet. You knew you could kill it. It was perfect for the role. And it just went to someone else. And it's just like, oh, like that's what it feels like. It's like a balloon. I just like deflated. Because like when you know you're so right for something, it just fits. And they didn't see it the same way that you did, it can be a little deflating. So having that detachment, and kind of, I think, like being as, you caught me on a good day, man. I don't know. I'm feeling very positive today, but yeah, being as buoyant, I think, as we can be. I think that's where I think by detaching, I find myself having a little more buoyancy. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
You know, it's it doesn't weigh so heavy when I lose things, and also seeing people who I know gain those things helps that as well. That experience of like, you go, girl. Okay, that means it was supposed to be for you.
Oh, nice. And then, so you're still very nice because, you know, there's money, there's ego, there's a new role, there's a creative fulfillment, there's your friend. In those moments, it sounds like you've become way more equipped to deal with it, which is hard because, you know, we want these things, obviously. So I'm very interested to know, was there a moment, or you just kind of had to figure out to be successful in this industry, maybe a bit of the Juilliard training, because they would probably kick you up the butt there? Is it just like a combination of just life, or anything that springs to mind?
Like a general, this is a very broad question.
Yeah. In terms of having to deal with the expectations of, you know, you're right there about to get that role, and then it just doesn't go your way for whatever reason.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, man. Life's not fair. You know, it's like, that's life. You're not going to get everything you want. You better suck it up, go work, and get the next one. You know, it's like, I give myself like, you know, I'll give myself like a half an hour. Oh man, that feels bad. And I'm butt hurt for a minute, but then you look, there's no crying in baseball. That's what I have to say.
Well, I really like that. But so some people can just sweep it under the rug and go, I don't want to deal with it. But you actually give yourself an allocated time. That's pretty cool. And that's also honoring yourself and your feelings as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's okay to take the time. You know, it's like, it is a stage of grief. It's like what could have been is as much a stage of grief as like having lost something. So giving yourself, you know, I go, Monica, I'm gonna let you be a little girl right now and cry about it for a minute. And I let her have that time. And then once little girl Monica feels like, okay, I've shed all my tears, we pick her back up. And we say, okay, here we go. We're going to try again.
So I really like that. I'll give you an example. I've briefly spoken about this. I had this production company interested in one of my pilots. And just long story short, it was not a good fit whatsoever. And this is going to be my first show that I've written. I'm going to, you know, all of these thoughts. I was so excited. I was already jumping to season 6. It hasn't even been made in development stage. And let's just say there was, out of respect, that it wasn't a good mix and it wouldn't have been made well. And anyway, and obviously there was the grief. I would have had my show and all of this, but then quite quickly, and I actually think healthily, I was able to realize and go, red flag, red flag, red flag. This wouldn't have happened. And I could see way more clearly, but it's because I felt my emotions. I realized that I was perhaps I was listening to my ego more than perhaps my intuition, because that was never going to work out. It would have been a horrible situation. And I'm so relieved, even though I didn't get my big break of having my show, it's actually led me to, one, I have a better understanding of what I want, of what's actually important to me, what I want in the show, who I want to work with. And I wouldn't have had that without that experience. And although it can be really tough in the moment, it gave me so much clarity by actually feeling it and not lying to myself, be able to go, you know what, on to the next one. And and I don't, I do it I would love to do it with every situation, but when I'm able to do that, it's actually so empowering. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you're able to do that as well, and a lot more than me as well.
No, no, I think you're speaking the same language. I'm glad to hear that, you gave yourself that time as well, because I wonder if maybe processing it helps us,
Yeah.
you know, identify the possibility of what's also there in like another relationship with it, right? Like the more I process it, the more like, oh man, that didn't work. It sort of helps create space for like curiosity about what the next moment is for that project.
Yeah.
It just helps it's like helping clear the space. That's what it feels like to me. It's
The
like we
example,
cry, now there's smoke, and then it's like the smoke billows, and we're like, oh, okay, we have a clear space now to move on.
exactly, said it really well. The example that just sprung to mind was having like a glass that's full of mud, but then if you keep on watering it out, the mud will come out. And it's not to say that, because I also do this, and so do humans, to say it's them and not me. It's to come out from like a outside perspective and see like, what could I have done better? What I didn't work, and just see from a neutral position. And it's the
Can
reason
I, can I say something that is like it betrays my TV history profile on Hulu, but I'm gonna say it, and I say it proudly, that Kris Jenner has a great quote, and I think she's absolutely right. Kris Jenner is the mom manager of the Kardashians.
yes, yes, yes.
And she says, if they say no, you're speaking to the wrong person.
Oh, I really like that.
And I really like that. I was like, you know what? This bitch is right. If I go into a room and I'm pitching something, and I have done this, and they say no, no, thank you, it just means that I'm speaking to the wrong person. I'm just pitching to the wrong person. That's all.
Well, I think about it like J.K. Rowling, for example, the famous example, rejected, I don't know, 200 times, someone knows, but then she found the right publisher. I don't know if she self did it, but anyway, she went on her own path and she found the right avenue. Curb Your
Yeah.
Enthusiasm, for example, I know he came off Seinfeld, but there's no way he could have pitched that show to a lot of other networks and stuff. Yes, he had the Seinfeld success, but it's just not right for so many people. More people will probably not like that show than like it, but it's found the right audience. And that's just, there is an audience for what you like. There are people, and I think that's so empowering. We focus on the people that don't like it more than the people that like it.
Yeah.
Even like your big musicians, they might have hundreds of thousands of followers, and there might be so many people go, I hate their music, but 100,000 people like their. Why do we focus on all the people that don't? And it's also a good lesson for me with my writing as well. So thanks for the
I feel like we're here like validating each other, you and I, and just encouraging a high
Yeah.
five. High five. This is a good session.
Well, actually, on that as well, I'm looking for agents in America, and if anyone knows one, let me know. And they liked one piece of my writing, and they
Hmm.
said the other one. No, they didn't say anything. I just said we like this. So I also do I do a lot of comedy writing, but I also do a lot of like spiritual sci-fi comedy writing and non-comedy writing. And they didn't give me feedback on that, but they liked my more dark comedy stuff. And I realized, which is very nice, that they read my stuff and they liked the one thing. And I realized if they don't like the other stuff, then I'm not going to get into a relationship with them, and they might not get into a relationship with me, because if they don't like that, that's what I excel in. And it was actually such a nice moment for me to realize that I don't just need to. They didn't offer me anything. I don't know where the relationship's going, but it was so nice to know, like, I don't need this just because I think I do, because it's not the right fit. If you don't like this, that's fine. We'll just go our separate ways. And I think that's an important life lesson for everyone. And
Absolutely. That's very sophisticated of you to be able to like have it. No, but it's true. Like to have you're having, excuse me, the detachment that we're talking about. That's exactly what that is. That feeling of like, oh, okay, this just isn't the right fit. It's detaching with love,
well, I like
right?
that. I like that. My meditation's finally working. It's only taken 8 years, so it's good to hear from.
It's working.
It's working. There's Oh, there's one thing that I wanted to wrap up before we do a rapid fire segment. And I'm not here for the gossip side whatsoever, but I think this is amazing. And I know you've spoken about this before. I listened to you and Ellen I don't even know how to say her name, from Grey's Anatomy. And
Pompeo.
to me, this is really awesome. And it ties into what we're saying about courage and saying no. And I don't want to get into the gossip side. I just want to know from your side. I know you were doing this big show. You're the star of this big show, Chicago Fire, and you had the courage to walk away. And that is a very rare trait to me. And there's a billion emotions. You can get into it as much as you want. But, you know, when you've got the paycheck, there's people that you like, you're on a big show, there's, you know, all of these things, but having the courage to walk away, which I assume was for creative fulfillment plus other stuff. I'd love to know why you did it.
That was a pretty ballsy move, I gotta say. That was scary. That was a pretty scary thing where I was like, is this smart? Are you an idiot? Does this make sense? Like, maybe I should not. I mean, talk about self-doubt for weeks. Because I was thinking about leaving a long time before I had to pull the trigger. And the reason, just to sort of contextualize, like I had a 6-year contract, which is very standard when you're a series regular on a TV show. It's 6. And then the studio, if everybody agrees that they want to continue on with the show, the studio will then enter renegotiations and they'll pay you more to stay. And then the amount of years that you stay is sort of, it's flexible as well. It depends on the actor. So my 6 years came and I reached the end of my contract and my producers were like, so, you know, we're going to go again, right? We're going to do like another year, another 2 years or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go. And I swear to God, I swear on my grandmother that they thought I was kidding.
Your face as well.
They thought I was fucking kidding. That's how insane it was for an actor to leave after their contract is over on a hit network show. They thought I was kidding. And the showrunner called me on my personal cell phone and was like, okay, no, that was funny. So what do we need to do? Like, so what's the, you know, do you want to just do like this many episodes, or like, what's the money, or how does it, what do we got to do to, and I was like, listen, bro, no, I'm out. And they, you know, gave me their best pitch and I declined. The reason was very simple. I was ready to move on. I was no longer being fulfilled. I needed more. I grew. I stopped growing. That's what happened. I stopped growing. I had some personal things happening in my life at the time as well that just made me very quickly see that I needed to push myself and leap. And I was like, oh, I hope I fly. I don't know. I don't know, man. I took a shot on myself. I'm very grateful that I did, but that was a very, very scary place for me to be. But I didn't die. The sun rose. I'm okay. I'm here to report that I'm okay. And it was a great lesson for me. It was a great lesson for me to be like, oh, believing in myself that seems to be working out. I believe in myself, and I'm starting to learn how to believe in myself more and more with each year and day. And this seems to be working out for me in my favor. So I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep investing in me and try to find the right people to talk to, you know?
It's such an awesome story, and I've written down like 30 points, but even just honoring where you're at and your intuition of, first of all, to acknowledge that, you know, you gave the example at the start where there's growth and you shared, and then there's growth and it's shared, which is obviously a core value for you, which is amazing. But, you know, you've talked about fear, you know, you saw the fear door, you kicked it down. You've got these negative, let's just call them voices, where they're like, don't do it. People think you're insane. And not that they're doing it deliberately. That's almost gaslighting in a sense, where everyone's saying, no, you're wrong in a sense. And I'm not saying people, I have no idea, but I would assume most people aren't doing it to be mean. And then, you're still like, no, 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 I've been feeling this for a while. It's not just a spur of the moment. It wasn't like I had an argument with someone and I need to run away. Like, you're feeling this for a moment, honoring yourself, and to say no. And I would assume there's nothing really there for, sorry, not that there's nothing there for you. There's not like you've got a job where you can just walk into a job. And even if there was, good for you. But to have all of these,
No. I just want to say there was none. No,
yeah,
I was leaving this unemployed. I did not have a job to go to.
which I think is remarkable, even if you had, it doesn't matter, is that you, despite all of that external noise, an actor's fear is, having the money, and you've lost a big contract in the sense of, you could be working there for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and the show's, I don't even know if it's still going or it just ended.
It
Still
is. It's going on, like season 12 or something. It's
Oh, wow.
still going.
Which is mind blowing. And to just honor yourself, and you fulfilled your contract as well. I think that is so awesome and so empowering. Obviously it worked out well, but it worked out well just because
Thanks.
you listened to yourself. Doesn't matter that you've had all of these amazing opportunities now, you listen to yourself. And I'm a firm believer, as wanky as it might sound, like, I'm not saying they're tests, but the more that we listen to ourselves, the more we're able to receive, inverted commas, good, because we're blocking out all of that gunk in our life, and you're going towards a path of more light, or you're more light. And so I think that's phenomenal. And how do you feel now that you were courageous enough to make that decision?
Thank you. That was very, very sweet of you to say. I'm very, how do I feel now? I'm, I feel, I feel like I'm just getting started. I
Ooh,
feel like I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of goals. I have a lot of shit I want to check off my list. And I have learned that life is short and very finite. So by making that first decision to leave to listen to my intuition, it was very scary. I'm very proud of it.
nice.
And and I didn't die. Like, I didn't die. I know that's so silly. I'm kind of being funny with it, but like, it's also true. Like, it feels like you're gonna die, and that I'm never gonna work again, and then and and it's okay. I'm not leaving for the wrong reasons. I was leaving because in my heart it was telling me to go. I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. I wasn't finding joy or play anymore, which is the how we started this conversation, which is how I started my career, is joy and play. And if those elements aren't there, I just can't do it. I can't do it because I will die of sadness. I will die of sadness and self-pity. So I'm feeling like I feel like I'm just beginning, and I feel like there's work to do. I feel like I pulled myself out of some kind of, you know, gunky, funky zone that I was in. I had these weird goggles on, and I was able to take them off. And again, it's because like there was also some personal stuff going on, and I was like very cloudy and dysregulated at the time. So I knew I had to make a choice to leave so that I could like grow as a person and as an artist. And now I feel like, scrubbing in. I got work to do.
Okay, that's amazing. And, that's also, it doesn't just apply for, acting. It applies for every situation, whether it's a relationship, a sexual relationship, at work. I don't know, so many different examples spring to mind of just being able to honor yourself, checking in and getting, when you step away from the gunk, you see things more clearly, as we've discussed. And it's very empowering. And inverted commas, the stakes might appear very high because there's so many people involved.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's your life, and you're trying to do the best that you can and respect other people along the way. And it's a great
Mm-hmm.
lesson. So what we're going to do now to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment. So the first thing that
Okay.
comes to mind, but honestly, they're never rapid and I derail them, so I'm not going to comment, and you can take your time. And you've answered some of these, but we'll see. What are you most proud of?
Mm, I'm most proud of following my dreams.
What's been your special ingredient to work all these years?
Mm, my special ingredient has been uh, saying no to the things I don't want to do, saying yes to things I can.
Okay, I said I wouldn't comment. That's very cool. Or this one could get you into trouble. Favorite role and why?
Ooh, well, does it have to be TV and film?
No.
No. Okay, my favorite role ever actually was when I was in college. I played Clytemnestra in the Greeks. And why? Because like she was a queen and she got to kill Agamemnon and she's like swimming in blood on stage for 3 hours. It was awesome.
How did they do the blood?
It was directed by this gentleman named Brian Murdy's, who's like a big New York director, and he does like pretty absurdist, sort of surreal takes on classical works. That's like his thing, and he does like site-specific works. Very, very cool artist. And the blood was like in this. What happened? This was a long time ago. It was in a pail. It was in a pail, and it was like, I think it was dropped down from a chain, and it kind of like came down. And as I was like killing Agamemnon, instead of like killing him, it was like the symbolism of pouring the blood on him, and then I just like bathed in it, and then I like so ridiculous, and then I like crawled around on this huge bed while he's like dying in his monologue, and it was awesome.
Very cool. Would you bring
so
that,
much fun.
Would you bring that play back?
100%.
Oh, that's one of the goals you can discuss with your managers.
Oh, yes, I will. Sidebar it.
Awesome. What brings the best creative content out of you?
What brings the best creative content out of me? Oh, when I would say that when mistakes happen, or yeah, I would call it mistakes. When unforeseen things happen while we're working, like when the camera's rolling, that's what brings out the best. It's like when you keep rolling, when you kind of like follow through with this unpredictable surprise and you keep going in that direction, oftentimes that brings out some really good gems.
That's awesome, because a lot of the times we think that when we've made a mistake, it's final. But you're saying that's just kind of the start. Let's get the ball.
Oh yeah, the mistakes is where the good stuff is, baby. That's the umami, you know what I'm saying?
That's gonna be the start of the podcast. I love it. Most embarrassing thing to happen to you while doing any of your 20,000 jobs that you do?
The most embarrassing thing to happen. Oh, I think this has happened quite a few times, but I just like I trip a lot. I'm very I'm not graceful whatsoever, and like full on like entering the scene falling like a Mr. Bean episode fall,
Oh,
you know,
that's
and then
so
just
good.
getting up and then just being like, I'm gonna go back to one. I mean, I fall everywhere, so
Oh,
that's
that's awesome.
probably the biggest embarrassment. Yeah.
Um, oh, what was the best gift you got from your bat mitzvah?
Money? Can I? I mean,
Yeah,
money.
I've still got some of my bar mitzvah money in it's always like 20 years. No, way more. Yeah, no less than that.
Put it in that savings, baby.
Is there any, like, I just remember, and I felt so sorry for the girls. The girls would get all these, like, shitty jewelry, and the guys would get all the money. And a lot of the brothers and sisters that were similar age, they'll see, like, I'm just making this up. The guys would get 10 grand, the girls would get, like, 1 grand in jewelry that they'll never wear. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Ah,
And we also get,
sucks to be you, girls.
while we're
Just
doing
add it to the list.
yeah, just raking the money up and
Yeah, I should just take all the jewelry and then go to the pawn shop.
exactly. That's one of the many
Get
bits of
some-
advice that people can get from tuning in today. Um,
So bad.
what would you do if you knew you could not fail?
What would I do if I knew I could not fail?
Yep.
I'd fly. I would. I don't even know if that answer makes sense to the question, but it's as if you just asked me if I were a superhero, what power would I want? That's literally what I just translated in my brain. If I couldn't fail, I would fly.
And within the skill sets that we currently have. I'm not ruling it out that one day we'll be able to fly.
If I couldn't fail, I don't know. I'd probably direct a feature film in film, on film. That's, just talk about if you couldn't fail, you better not when it's on film. That's probably what I'd do. I'd shoot an entire feature on film.
Can we add that to the list as well of the many things that we've discussed today to your manager?
I suppose. This might be something I'll do when I retire.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Last two. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps are a bit fearful of doing so?
Do it. You just do it. I read something recently that Bezos said, I mean, I don't care, what our thoughts are about Bezos. It doesn't matter. The point is that he did what he wanted and he's successful because of it. He said you only need to know about 70% of what you want to do. You don't need to know 100%. Once you know about 70% of what it is that you want to do, that's when you should go do it. You'll figure out the other 30% on the job.
That is,
and he's totally right.
Yeah.
It's great. And it just sort of hopefully gives all of us some relief that you need to know everything in order to just go do the thing. No, you don't. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to know anything. You just have to go do it. You'll figure it out as you go. You'll stumble. It'll be messy. It'll hurt, but you're gonna be okay. You just gotta keep doing it.
That's actually, we're going to use that as the plug of the podcast. That was beautiful. Added to your TED Talk amongst the other 30 things that you do.
TED Talk.
This is the last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
What's my drink of choice?
And what's that?
Coffee.
How many coffees a day?
About 4 to 5.
Whoa, that's a lot.
I hand grind my own beans.
Oh, that's very cool.
I recently went to Costa Rica just for a coffee farm. I drink only 100% Arabica coffee. I am a coffee snob. That is my life. Coffee. I should have said that when you were like, what's your secret to a successful career? Coffee.
Have you been to
good coffee? What? Have I been to Australia? Yeah.
So we're snobs here, and I don't drink coffee, but we laugh at the Americans that think they've got good. Well, you've obviously got good beans, but we laugh at them because we're meant to have the best coffee. So.
I laugh at Americans too when it comes to their coffee beans as well. I don't do any coffee beans from America. It's all got to be from not America, from anywhere but America. Yeah, we have a lot of great things here in this country. Coffee is not one of them.
That's our most controversial take today, and we'll keep it that way. And before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you and all the gazillion things that you're doing?
Sure. I'm not super active on social media, but I do have one social media account on Instagram. You can follow me at Monica Raymund 86. There's the blue check mark. That's all I've got. I don't have Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, none of that. Just Instagram. And, I post about once every quarter. I'm not great, but...
That's a good ratio because it can be very good. Awesome. Thank you. You are amazing and very empowering. This was very uplifting for me. And yeah, I'm so excited that we got to do this. And yeah, thank you so much.
Me too, Michael. Thanks for having me.
I love Monica's take on having a point of view. Often we can get clouded with fear, insecurities, perfection, etc. And this can prevent us from putting our best foot forward. Monica highlights that when we experience doubt, it's often in our best interest to just make a decision. Making a decision, right or wrong, is often better than not making a decision at all. It can propel us forward and give us something to work with. For example, when you're a writer and it means putting something down on the page so you don't have that blank canvas, planning a business and starting your documents, or putting that first foot forward as a runner, all these things ultimately push you in a forward direction and build momentum. Monica also goes one step further and explains how often we think we need to be someone or something else. But by making our own decisions, we remain true to ourselves. Committing, honoring, and trusting yourself is a blueprint for success. You can always adapt, change, and alter decisions later, but doing nothing doesn't yield results. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. If you are your authentic self, you have no competition. Anonymous. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.